Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everybody that has joined this meeting. We'll wait for maybe one or two more minutes for other participants to join. My name is Michael Milo. I'm a WASH specialist at UNICEF headquarters, and I'm going to be the host for today. This session that you're joining is called Harnessing Partnerships to Accelerate WASH in Schools. It's one of actually the first few sessions that we are having in World Water Week. So I'm excited to kick off, particularly if this is your first session that you're attending. We'll wait for another minute, and then we will officially begin. Anjali, could you please go to the next slide? Right. So perhaps while we're waiting, I'll just go through the agenda items really quickly. So we will start with a bit of introductions that will be given by myself on the global perspectives on school WASH and the links to the SDGs. We'll also have an opportunity to listen to Sanjeev Mehta from Unilever, and also it is going to be Sanjeev, right, guys? All right, and also listening to Anila Gopal from Unilever. As we go through today, we'll also have an opportunity to listen to my UNICEF colleagues in India speaking about the program in Maharashtra. And we'll also be sharing some reflections and learnings from these experiences. And we'll see a couple of videos, also another video on that will show work in Odisha. And then we'll hear more about reflections and learnings from our Unilever colleagues and the government colleagues. And finally, we will also have an opportunity to have everybody that's speaking at a panel, and we'll ask them a few questions about their programs and future outlook. I think we have about 25 participants now. I think I'll start, and let's begin. Next slide. Right, so just so that you know, I think we hear the different participants that will be on today. Of course, we're honored to be joined by Dr. Naveen Nicholas, who's a director at the Ministry of Education in India. But we'll also joined by several of our colleagues, as you can see here. Nicholas Osbert, the Chief of WASH of UNICEF in India, and Prashant Venkatesh of the India Head of Sustainability of Unilever, Anila Gopal, Global Head of Sustainability Unilever, a very good colleague of mine, Mariah Rokesh Jensen, who is a WASH specialist in UNICEF India as well. And we also have an opportunity to be joined by Robin Ward, who's the Water, Climate, and Sustainability Lead for UNICEF UK. All right, next slide. So I'll be introducing a little bit of the progress of WASH in schools globally. Please go ahead to the next slide. What you're looking at here is actually the progress of WASH in schools for water, sanitation, and hygiene in the last report, which was just released a few months ago by the Joint Monitoring Program. In this report, you'll see in the center of each of these three boxes a number on top. So where it says 71, it's 71% of schools in the world actually have basic drinking water. While in the bottom, you'll see that there's still a need actually for us to be able to increase and achieve the SDGs by 2030 by 14%. And similarly, when you look at sanitation, And we have progressed actually quite a bit. It used to be behind water by about 5 percentage points. It's now actually 1 point above water at 72. But in order for us to achieve it, we will still need 3 times acceleration in order for us to be able to achieve it. And worse off actually is hygiene, where we're currently at about 58% of schools. This means 4 out of every 10 schools actually don't have basic hand washing facilities or basic hygiene facilities, which impacts upwards of 802 million children. And we have been spending about 2 decades now pushing for wash in schools. And we have gained a lot of traction, as you can see, and yet it's still not significant progress. In fact, in this slide that you're seeing here now, we're looking at actually the coverage per subsector. So in water, for example, in India, you can see that basic water is 66%, while basic sanitation is 58%, and basic hygiene is 51%. It's fantastic. It's probably one of the best performers in the world. However, when we look at basic wash, meaning the presence of all three, it still actually falls behind, with only about a third of the schools having access to a full set of basic wash services. Next slide. Right. So, I mean, what's the point here? The point is acceleration is critical for wash in schools. And in order for us to be able to achieve this acceleration, wash in school programming requires a system-wide approach, one that tackles several sector functions that you can see bulleted here. So for years now, we've been using an enabling environment approach, which is a framework that assesses your policy, your budget and expenditure, your monitoring and evaluation, and so on. And I'm happy to kind of see that during the presentations today that we'll be seeing many of these areas. It's a framework that's similar to what's being used by the Sanitation and Water for All as building blocks. As you can see, there's a lot of parallelism. But also the SDG acceleration framework speaks to this as well. And basically what this translates into is, what we need to do with regards to improving national policies that help institutionalize wash in schools into learnings. We speak about national education plans, making sure that WASH is not left out, and supporting EMIS systems in order for us to be able to monitor progress over time. Hopefully, with the hopes that it actually unlocks domestic resources so that we can achieve the standards and guidelines that are put out by the MOE. And especially today, we'll also hear a little bit about the different types of innovations that we must do in order to kind of make these programs more climate resilient. Next slide. And another kind of aspect of today's session is something that is quite important to UNICEF, particularly for this most current strategic plan. UNICEF actually sees, as it says here, is building on an approach which engages the business sector systematically. It's considering that in this new strategy, that in order for us to be able to kind of achieve the results that we're aiming for in the SDGs, we need to engage business. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean that we will no longer do our other strategies or approaches, but this dimension is really trying to tap into the expertise, innovation, so that we can achieve impact at scale. I'll stop there and I'll go to the next slide and show, I believe, the first video.
The pandemic has had a devastating impact on people. Millions of lives and livelihoods have been lost. It has also exposed key vulnerabilities of our society, such as our fragile health systems. Water, sanitation, and hygiene has always been an area that is important to our business, and we have always looked for ways to impact people's health positively. Our deep consumer insights and a strong portfolio of health and hygiene brands like Lifebuoy or Domestos means that as a company, we are very well placed to tackle sanitation and hygiene challenges. But we still know that there is a long way to go to reach SDG 6, with everyone having access to water, hygiene, and sanitation by 2030. With over 2 billion people still not having access to hand washing facilities and over 3.5 billion people to safe sanitation, we need to be ambitious with scale. We are looking at innovative ways to reach people. In Mumbai, we have launched 7 state-of-the-art Suvidha, or what are really community hygiene centers with HSBC and the local government. The centers provide access to clean sanitation to nearly 2 lakh men, women, and children and persons with disabilities. Water, a resource that is not only essential for our business but also supports the lives and livelihoods of people, is another area of focus for us. Through the Hindustan Unilever Foundation, a not-for-profit company that was set up nearly a decade back, we support and amplify scalable solutions that can help address India's water challenges. The foundation has delivered a cumulative and collective water potential of over 1.9 trillion liters. Public-private partnerships are central to Unilever's approach to improving access to hygiene and sanitation. As we are learning to live with the pandemic, we must step up efforts to close gaps and build the resilience of our communities to future disease outbreaks and pandemics. Through a compass strategy, we have committed to improving people's health through the work of our brands like Lifebuoy and Domestos, and our aim is to reach 1 billion people by 2030. But we can only do it by working together with the governments, other businesses, and civil society, bringing together our complementary resources and capabilities to achieve the scale of change our society needs. Thank you.
Perfect. So as we heard, the partnerships are a critical component of how this works, particularly between private sector and public sector. Perhaps we can listen a little bit to Anila Gopal, also from Unilever, with regards to how we set up this partnership. Over to you, Anila.
Sure. Thank you, Mike. Are you able to hear me fine?
Yeah, loud and clear.
Okay, great. Hi, everyone. Welcome to this session of World Water Week. So I'm Anila. I look after health and well-being at Unilever. Just wanted to set a bit of a context. My apologies if some of you couldn't hear the video very well, but that was Sanjeev, who leads all of our brands and programs, and this is the CEO of India, talking about this partnership, which is one of the flagship ones for us. So many of you may be aware of Unilever, some of you may not, but I'm sure all of you are familiar with some of the brands, Lifebuoy, Domestos, Lux, Surf, depending on which country you're in. And what's particularly exciting about where Unilever is in its sustainability journey is that currently the business plan and the sustainability plan are fully embedded. So we used to have something called the Unilever Sustainable Living Plan, which went from 2010 to 2020, which was essentially a set of ambitious targets that sat separate to the business, whereas now our vision is basically to be the global leader in sustainable business. So it's one term, it's one expression, sustainable business. And the way we will do this is through purpose-led and future-fit brands and business models to drive performance. So this is deliberately written in a very business language to say that sustainability will be embedded in everything we do. The strategy that Unilever follows has three tenets. The first one that you see in the circle is brands with purpose grow, because we have a lot of evidence and data that shows that purposeful brands perform better, even in terms of business, because they form an emotional connect with consumers and consumers remember you for it and are loyal to you for it. The second, which is very also exciting, because we'll be hearing from Prashant soon, who works with HUL corporate team, is companies with purpose last. We see a lot of like life cycle of companies that start and end and go kind of become irrelevant for various reasons. So this is embedded in for the company and the corporate angle. And finally, people with purpose thrive. A lot of work that HR has seen that when people are kind of infused with a sense of purpose and empowerment, they're more motivated to work and they perform better. So this is just an introduction to Unilever. Next slide, please. Unilever has a long history working on hygiene and sanitation. This is not a bolt-on, corporate responsibility activity at all. It's strategic to what we do. From our inception, actually, we were founded as a hygiene company in the 1800s in Victorian England, where there were cholera outbreaks and very poor sanitation and hygiene conditions. Unilever was founded by William Lever, and hence the word lever in our name, to make cleanliness commonplace. And we found, especially in the last 3 years during the COVID pandemic, that mission is relevant even here and now. It's not cholera, but it's other infectious outbreak where hygiene can play a role. And so the two brands that are very relevant that have done a lot of work, one is Lifebuoy around hand washing, and the second one is Domestos, which is a toilet cleaner, which has done a lot of work around, making toilets accessible, clean, and usable, particularly for children. So there's kind of decades of experience working with this, and combined cumulatively during the 2010 to 2020 period, we've reached over 1 billion people through our programs. Next slide, please. So the particular thing that gives all of us joy from Unilever who are on the call today is wash behavior change, because we feel that we're a marketing company, and marketing is about communications, persuasion, and forming a connect where consumers are more likely to practice a behavior. So this is where we've invested a lot of time, expertise. We've got entire teams of with public health, academic credentials, etc., developing these flagship behavior change programs. Two examples we've shown here: School of Five, which is on hand washing, which we've partnered actually with UNICEF in Madhya Pradesh several years ago on. And the second one is Cleaner Toilets, Brighter Future, which is a program that puts the entire school, but particularly janitors, at the heart of it. All of you who are familiar with the Swachh Bharat campaign will know that actually phase one was about building toilets, but now it's really about getting people to use it. So this is where a lot of our work has been. The second area is on programs and partnerships at scale, because I think the learnings you get from doing a pilot and doing things at scale is very different. So we've worked with a host of partners, including most recently in the context of COVID-19 with FCDO, the UK government, and a network of 21 partners, including UNICEF, on rolling out hygiene response to fight COVID. And so a lot of programmatic experience. And the last one is around advocacy, a bit different from programming. And here's where we've really partnered with Mike and Hand Hygiene for All and UNICEF, which is, this is just an example. H for hand washing was the Global Hand Washing Day idea for last year. How can we make H forever associated with hand washing when children learn ABC? An exciting buzzworthy idea to motivate children, etc. And this is an interesting way that we activated through HPCC and UNICEF partnership. Next slide, and I think this is the last one. Just to say the kind of what was the in setting up this partnership, what was our ambition, which was to join hands with UNICEF, which has an amazing positioning sitting between civil society, government, and then private sector and other players. So to join hands with UNICEF, do something truly at scale, needless to say, with the Ministry of Education, because there was a lot of work that's been done in the past with the sanitation workers, etc. But we said the teachers are at the heart of it. How do we put teachers in schools at the heart of it? So a massive scale, massive ambition, looking at 14 states, etc. And I think the really interesting thing, which we'll probably talk about later in the panel, is the ways of working, kind of I think the reason this partnership is very special and has been a success is because we all focused at what we're strongest at. For example, Unilever leaned in disproportionately on the communications development and the behavior change package module that went out into schools. And UNICEF did the heavy lift with governments, with state governments, and getting them to kind of onboard and deploy this despite the very difficult times of COVID. So just to set the context for this global partnership that's focusing on India, and I'll hand back to Mike now.
Thank you, Anila. It's nice to see the progress and the work that we've been doing over the last few years. And I'm excited to actually see this next. It's a field highlight where we'll be looking at one of these programs in Maharashtra, India.
Since 2019, we are working on a partnership with Unilever. This partnership is all about supporting the schools which are not having water, sanitation, hygiene.
कालांतराने हळूहळू पूर्ण गावातली सर्वांची हागंदारी म्हणून ही जागा प्रसिद्ध होती. इथं दारूवाले सुद्धा इथंच यायचे, पत्ते जुगार खेळणारे सुद्धा इथंच.
मासिक पाळी वगैरे त्यांच्या मुलींना त्याची सुद्धा सोय नव्हते, म्हणजे मुली तेव्हा सुद्धा शाळेत येत नव्हत्या.
At the national level, we work with the education ministry, with Unilever to develop a consolidated training toolkit.
हर एक डिस्ट्रिक्ट का हमने डिस्ट्रिक्ट वाइज स्वच्छता एक्शन प्लान बनाया और ये स्वच्छता एक्शन प्लान हमने हर एक डिस्ट्रिक्ट के सीईओ के साथ शेअर किया.
आम्ही लोक सहभागामधून ही शौचालय उभारण्यात आलेली आहे. मुलींना वेगळी शौचालय, मुलांना वेगळी शौचालय, शिक्षकांना वेगळी शौचालय, अपंगांना वेगळी शौचालय.
मी स्वच्छता मंत्री आहे आणि पूर्ण शाळेची स्वच्छता आणि मुलांची आणि माझी स्वतःची स्वच्छता मी पाहते. सर्व वर्ग खोल्या झाडलेले आहे की नाही, सर्व शौचालय व्यवस्थित स्वच्छ आहे की नाही हे मी पाहते. आणि आता आपल्या शाळेमध्ये इतकं सुंदर झालेलं आहे, म्हणजे टॉयलेट वगैरे आणि मुलींची मासिक पाळी वगैरे त्याची सुद्धा बिलकुलच चांगली सोय झालेली आहे.
क्षणामधूनच आम्हाला युनिसेफच्या मार्फत हे हँडवॉश स्टेशन देण्यात आलेले आहेत. या हँडवॉश स्टेशनचा आमच्या मुलांना खूप चांगल्या प्रमाणात फायदा झाला.
आम्हाला सांगितलं होतं ट्रेनिंगमध्ये कसं हात धुवायचे वगैरे. आता ते गाणं मी म्हणून दाखवते. हातात आला पैसा, पाण्यात गेला मासा. पाय चोखतो अंगठा, गाण्याच्या हातात अंगठ्या, मासा गेला पाण्यात, हात झाले स्वच्छ.
विद्यार्थ्यांनी हीच जी परिस्थिती आहे हात धुण्याची वगैरे ती गावापर्यंत नेली. गावात जाऊन त्यांनी आपल्या आईवडिलांना, भावंडांना सुद्धा शिकवलं.
बच्चा बोलता है घर पे 2-2 साबुन चाहिए. क्यों? क्योंकि जो बाथ के लिए जो साबुन यूज करते वो साबुन हैंड वॉश के लिए नहीं यूज करना है.
वन स्टारहून 4 स्टारपर्यंत जाण्यामध्ये अनेक लोकांनी आम्हाला मदतच केलेली आहे आणि त्या मदतीमुळेच आम्ही 4 स्टारपर्यंत गेलो आणि 4 स्टारच्याही पुढचं काम आम्ही या ठिकाणी करणार आहोत.
बाकीच्या शाळांमध्ये पण हे दाखवायला पाहिजे, कारण की प्रत्येक मुलाला स्वच्छता ही प्रत्येकासाठी गरजेची आहे आणि प्रत्येक मुलाला याची सवय लागली पाहिजे.
सगळ्यांपर्यंत ह्या स्वच्छतेचा संदेश पोहोचायला पाहिजे, म्हणजे आपला जो भारत आहे तो पूर्णपणे अगदी सुदृढ आणि निरोगी राहील.
कळती पाण्यात छम 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 कारण स्वच्छ हातामध्येच आहे दम.
Nice. Thank you for that. And I will now hand over to our UNICEF India Country Office, Mariah, for reflections and learnings on leveraging government and private sector resources to scale. Over to you, Mariah.
Thanks so much, Mike, and welcome everyone to this session during World Water Week. Really happy to share some of the reflections and learnings of this very exciting partnership with Unilever and with the Ministry of Education. Next slide, please. So first, just a very brief introduction to UNICEF in India. So we work in 17 states and have around 800 plus people working on the ground. So this is the largest UN agency in the country with a very strong field presence, reaching around 90% of the child population in India. Specifically, the WASH team, water, sanitation, hygiene, works across 5 pillars. The first one is sanitation hygiene. The second one is around water supply. The third one is on WASH in institutions, which includes schools, preschools, healthcare facilities, but also includes menstrual hygiene management. The fourth one is specifically around social behavior change, which is then linked back to all the outputs around sanitation, hygiene, water, and WASH in institutions. And the fifth pillar is around climate change and emergency response. So we work very closely with different parties, including government counterparts, and we support large flagship programs here in India, including Clean India mission, Swachh Bharat mission, and the Jal Jeevan mission, but also the big school wash program that the Ministry of Education leads. And we'll hear more from the Ministry of Education later on, so I won't go into detail. So the key way that the approach that we work is not necessarily to construct wash facilities, but rather to play a catalytic role and really enable government counterparts, but also local communities to ensure that they have a clean environment. And we do that through gender transformative programming and community empowerment. We focus strongly on social behavior change communication, and we support planning, budgeting, and monitoring processes from the national to the grassroots level. Very strong focus on capacity development, really looking at professionalizing the sector, but also bringing in evidence, generating evidence and using it for advocacy. And the last one is around leveraging funding, unlocking money that otherwise would not have been used, for example, for school wash programs. Next slide, please. So we don't do that alone, of course. We work we work a lot through partnerships, because we believe that by working together with others, we can really unlock the potential for WASH in the country. We work a lot with public and parastatal institutions, development partners, but also corporates. And Unilever is definitely one of our most important partners of our collaboration in India. Next slide. So now zooming into the specific partnership between Unilever Lifebuoy and UNICEF, where we both partners come together and support the Ministry of Education to implement the larger Swachh Bharat, Swachh Vidyalaya program in the country. So this partnership takes 150,000 schools that are somehow poor performing. We have a 5-star rating system in India for WASH in schools, and we've taken where 1 and 2 stars are the poorest performing, and 3, 4, and 5 stars are schools are doing much better. So we've decided, let's take 150,000 schools that have only 1 or 2 stars and help them move up the ladder. While we do that, let's also try to ensure that at least 50% of the schools also have an improvement in hand washing, including the behavior change aspect of it. And let's take 50% of these 150,000 schools and make sure that they have an improvement in operation and maintenance for sanitation. By rolling out this program, we estimate that we reach around 30 million children. Next slide, please. So how do we do this? So we approach the school wash as a holistic approach. First, we look at the enabling environment, then we look at demand, and we also look at supply. Enabling environment includes policy engagement, but also data, planning, monitoring, and working with others, including the United Nations. The second pillar looks at social behavior change communication, fostering innovations, technologies, advocacy, and public engagement. And supply looks around institutional strengthening of systems, service delivery, and public partnerships. Again, we work across all the different stakeholders from the national to the local level, including the school management committees, child cabinets, sanitation workers, teachers, and with the Ministry of Education, state education departments, and local governments. Next slide, please. This partnership in 2018. At the national level, I think one of the biggest achievements for me really is the fact that there is now a national comprehensive school wash training toolkit available for 7 different stakeholder groups. This toolkit includes a handbook, facilitator guide, and dedicated presentations. It's for government representatives, but also for master trainers, teachers, school management committees, child cabinets, and sanitation workers. So it's really cuts across the entire spectrum of stakeholders that is involved or has a role to play in school wash. The Ministry of Education has disseminated this across India, and it's now currently being rolled out. And I think the key component for this partnership was that we were able to co-create the content of this training toolkit together with Unilever, really banking on their vast experience in behavior change, but also in sanitation. I mentioned already UNICEF's role is also around leveraging and funding, unlocking the potential to spend funding from government and but also private sector for school wash that otherwise would not have been spent. We also support this rollout of the Swachh Vidyalaya Puraskar. This is the 5-star ranking and monitoring and award scheme led by the government. And I will not go into the detail because I believe that Dr. Naveen from the Ministry of Education will go into the detail. We also tapped into the Jal Jeevan mission, which is a national flagship program, which aims to connect all households with piped water. So we advocated that we should not just focus on schools, on households, but also in schools, and ensure that schools get the priority. And up to date, 867,000 schools have been provided with functional water tap connection. And then lastly, in the context of COVID, of course, it was very important that we have a strong focus on wash, infection prevention, and control to ensure that schools could reopen safely after being closed during lockdown. Next one, please. So going into the details, what did we do at the state and at district level? So I mentioned already this training toolkit. You see here some images of the different handbooks for the different stakeholder groups. So we were able to contextualize these training materials at the state level as required, and also train and engage important stakeholders. We've trained almost 35,000 master trainers, 4,800 senior level government officials, and over 20,000 elected representatives. These are huge numbers. We also facilitated the district training plans so that master trainers could then take these training materials and ensure cascading of the training down to the block and to the school levels. Yeah, that's fine. So at the school level, we of course had to have a baseline to ensure that we can measure the progress from 1 and 2 stars to 3 and above. So while we focus on 150,000 schools reaching 3 stars, our baseline was a little broader, and we have 178,000 schools in the baseline that we work with. At the school level, we also facilitate the rollout of this training toolkit, reaching around 820,000 teachers, 18,000 school management committee members, 93,000 child cabinet members, and 850 sanitation workers. At school level, we also use the SVP, the star ranking and monitoring tool to develop so-called Swachhta action plans. These are school wash improvement plans where the school management committee identifies what is needed to improve the wash facilities in the school and ensure that they can climb up the star ranking ladder. So this was done in 96,000 schools. And again, Dr. Naveen Nicholas will explain a little bit more about the Swachhta action plans later on in the session. So we've also focused a lot around behavior change. And we had some national campaigns, including a Swachhta Pakhwara, which is a cleanliness fortnight, and Global Hand Washing Day, where we reached around 13 million people and 1.14 million people respectively, with specific activities around hand washing, cleanliness, etc. During COVID, it was difficult to do behavior change, but we used alternative ways to reach teachers and students, for example, through school radio programming or through community mobilizers. And we've also tried to foster innovations in schools to bring new solutions, including low-touch hand washing units, especially important during COVID, but also focusing on water quality testing in schools, which is not always done, but is definitely an important requirement. We also looked at ensuring that wash facilities are child-friendly, gender-sensitive, and geoclimate responsive. And we looked at the demonstration of toilets for children with special needs. So in the interest of time, I'll go through the last slides a little quickly because I had just a few minutes left. I think maybe I'll just focus on this slide in the next. So on what I would like to say is one of the important results from this partnership is that allowed us to do a lot of advocacy at the state level, and really, for example, in one of the large states, Uttar Pradesh, this was a very poor performing state, and we were able to transform the school wash program there from almost hardly any attention to a large scale state level flagship mission, reaching all the districts, reaching all the schools, and leveraging huge amounts of money. And now at this stage in time, 70% of the schools have actually moved from 1 to 3 stars. So this actually goes, this leveraging and advocacy is even going beyond the scope of the partnership, where we just focus on 150,000 schools in 14 states. So in UP, we're actually able to go above and beyond. Next slide, please. So some of the key lessons of this partnership, I think the co-creation process was really very useful. We were able to tap into some of the great experience and resources from Unilever. The fact that we have a harmonized toolkit, I think, is really great because it's a practical tool that we can use for professionalization of the service providers. For example, sanitation workers are hardly ever trained, and it's very difficult to work with them, and they are a key when you look at operation and maintenance. The leveraging at scale and the ability to focus on 150,000 schools for 4 years is really great, because it helps to bring results and hopefully also sustain results and make that connection with other flagship programs from the government of India. There was an intense focus on the school level interventions through trainings, but also those behavior change activities, etc. And then, of course, working with government on these processes like wash improvement plans, but also the Swachh Vidyalaya Puraskar, the monitoring and award schemes. And then the last one, I think, it was a challenging time during COVID, but we somehow embraced it as an opportunity to strengthen the focus further on wash and ensure that schools could reopen safely. So Mike, I'm going to leave it here. We have more slides, but I think we should move to the next speaker. Thanks.
Okay, no, thank you, Maria. I mean, in fact, before we go to the next speaker, we get to kind of see practically what this looks like by looking at a safe school reopening in addition.
स्कूल खोलिबो कोरोना परे बोली हम ट्यूशन सर हमको जनैथिले सेतबेले मु बहुत एक्साइटेड हे जाइतली बहुत प्राय 2 वर्ष परे हम स्कूल खोलिबो स्कूल रो परिवेश केमित थिबो सब केते चेंज हे जाइथबो सब नुवा नुवा संग को सहित मिसिबा को मिलिबो जान के बहुत खुशी हेतली पीरियड समय तबले हम स्कूल मिस करथलु स्कूल आसु नथिलु बहुत पाठ पढ़ा मिस होतला
पिला मानकर वाश फैसिलिटी टॉयलेट फैसिलिटी रो डेवलपमेंट हबा द्वारा पिला मानकर जो अटेंडेंस आके कमी जाउतला पिला आसु नथिले बर्तन अटेंडेंस बढ़ी छि पिला माने आउ निर्भय रे आसु चंदी तांको दुख नाही तांको लज्जा नाही से खुशी मन रे समान आसु चंदी
टॉयलेट पूरा परिष्कार हो जाता टॉयलेट रे गोटे बड़ ग्रीन कलर डस्टबिन था नैपकिन चेंज करिया को आ ड्रेस रे दाग लाग गले भी मैम को कहले मैम नुआ ड्रेस था कमन रूम आम से पिंधि नौ और आम ड्रेस को बैग रे पूरे घर को नहीं जाऊ पुणी परदिन धोईक आनी मैम को रिटर्न करूँ एसएमसी मीटिंग भी होता से आम प्रोब्लेम को रूपांतरीकरण करुले आउ चाइल्ड कैबिनेट मंत्रिमंडल भी हो जाइथिला आमर सेठी सब 8 जन मंत्री रहउतले प्रति मासर शेष शनिवार मीना मंच भी बसुला सेठी आम झील मानू किपरि सुरक्षा दिया हबो से विषय मध्ये सिखा होतला
आगुरु जानिथुल जे झील पे मानकर पीरियड कोन एवं या किपरि हुए एवं या द्वारा से किपरि प्रभावित होइथांती एबे आमे उच्च क्लास रे पढिया द्वारा आमे ता विषय अवगत हेगछु अवगत होला परे आम चिंताधारा खूब बदल जाईछि
There was technical support provided at the state level which helped in the development of various SOPs, government orders, strategies for the school improvement program, specifically on the WASH benchmark. In addition to this, all the key stakeholders were sensitized on the WASH in School program, which allowed to develop Swachhata action plan at the school level. This helped to identify the gaps at the school level, develop the improvement plan, and also ensure that the capacities are built for improvement.
आ मते लागुची मु ऐसो फैसिलिटी पाई सारिबा परे मु मो स्वप्न को हासिल करि पारिबी आ मो संग मानकर ड्रीम भी फुलफिल हबो
Thank you, Anjali. And now we'll hear from Prashant. His reflections and learnings and the benefits of this co-creation that Mariah was talking about earlier and the collaborations with private sector and UN agencies for WASH in schools. Over to you, Prashant.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Yep, loud and clear.
Okay, great. Thank you. Firstly, thrilled with the opportunity to speak about this incredible partnership today. And just taking a step back, back in the end of 2018, early 2019, when Anila and the global team first spoke to us in India saying that, look, we're working on this really large partnership. I must confess that more than excitement, the entire team, we had a sense of fear, saying, because some of the numbers, the ambition of the project seemed way too large, right? Because we're talking about 150,000 schools, we're talking about nearly 10 million children. These numbers seemed extremely big. And let's face it, I think Unilever and UNICEF are both very large organizations who do great work, but always struggle to partner with other large organizations as well. So for us in the beginning, it was a sense of fear saying, okay, look, what exactly are we going to do? Are we biting off more than we can chew? And therefore today I'm so delighted to see 3 years fast forward, And thanks to COVID, it feels like, we have fast forwarded nearly 50 years. Looking at the results today, just delighted to see, the way this has panned out, the incredible work done by UNICEF on the ground, and of course, with consultation and in partnership with 14 different state governments, across the country, and of course the central government as well. So I'm just going to use the next, 3 to 4 minutes in quickly talking about maybe from the Unilever perspective, what we were able to bring in on the behavior change part. I think Mariah covered a lot about, the work on the ground in terms of infrastructure. And then maybe I'll just spend a minute in just reflecting on, what's been our learnings, at Unilever from this partnership and what we are taking forward from here. If you can go to the next slide. Yeah, so very quickly, I think Anila spoke a lot about it. The very interesting thing is, the work which Lifebuoy did 10 years back was really instrumental in putting together, a simple framework which people could understand, to help, change behaviors. And I know today we're talking about hygiene, but it's the same framework which can be used for getting people to vaccinate. It is the same behavior which is, used to get people to take more sustainable actions. Same, framework which can be used to get people to file taxes and so on, right? So these principles are very, very consistent, whatever the behavior change you're trying to, affect. And it's all about, make it easy, make it understandable to people, make it desirable. It needs to, people need to see or want to be a part of a movement where this action is being taken. Of course, it needs to be rewarded. And this is a very difficult task because, unlike, other actions, what is really good for you in the long term is really not rewarding in the short term, right? And the more you think about it, whether it is getting a vaccine or whether it is going and investing, some of these actions are never rewarding in the short term because you don't see the results of your action. How do you make it a habit? And I think the 21-day habit change tracker, first started by Lifebuoy, but now being used across brands, is something which we have built. And very, very importantly, make it understood, right? Because some of these things, it's also important that you simplify it and help people understand why this behavior is important. So very simple 5 levers of change. It takes time to effect to really change behavior. And everything from improving awareness, bringing a sense of commitment or ownership, to reinforcing the messages over and over and over and over again, and of course having some sense of a reward. So this is, in a nutshell, the framework which we have used at Unilever for many, many years, and what we tried to build in even for this WASH program or the WINS program with UNICEF. Anjali, the next slide, please. And I think just to reiterate, we had the Lifebuoy program for many years. We've been using the same one for Domestos on the Cleaner Toilets program. Anila spoke about the H4 hand washing program. But back in as Unilever corporate, I think in 2014, when the Prime Minister announced his grand ambition on making India, a much cleaner and a safer country, that's when we had also launched the Swachh Aadat Swachh Bharat program. It's a very, very simple, entertaining, easy to understand book which has all the behaviors of wash, whether it's hand washing, sanitation, and of course drinking clean water. It was developed by both marketeers and teachers, so it's not Unilever's perspective, but we also got in educators to bring, to come on board, and experts who are very, very comfortable in dealing with children, right? Because I think the thing with children is you can't really fool them. If it is good, it's good. If it's not good, you can't convince them that, look, it's good for you. So it needs to be entertaining. And therefore, then we created this very, very interesting superhero character called Sonu, who, has all these everyday tasks which he tries to do, but at the same time, inculcates these messages of, reinforces these messages of the importance of hand washing or the importance of, safe sanitation and drinking water. And the really good thing is we have a super villain, which is really the virus. Next slide, please, Anjali. I think in the, like I said, this partnership really started before COVID, around, late 2018, early 2019. And it took us a year in putting together a lot of this material. But honestly, March 2020, everything had to pivot, and all of you know about this, on the call. I don't need to tell you. And that meant we had to pivot everything from the content, because suddenly, instead of talking about a very generic, virus or bacterial infection, we had to talk about COVID, right? Secondly, how do you talk about social distancing to children, and in a country where social distancing is honestly very, very difficult because of a density of population? And to talk about, a disease like COVID, which if you think back 2 years, there was so much of misinformation in India, because, on how do you deal with the crisis, how do you manage it? And therefore, I think in a way, the COVID crisis also, for us, reinforced our belief that this was a really, really important partnership, and we needed to bring, as much of our ability and our understanding of behavior change to this partnership. Next slide, please. Yeah, and I think we're very proud of this, and worked with Mariah, Nicola, and their teams, Pratibha, on bringing in all the great work from different brands like Lifebuoy, Domestos, from our own corporate initiative on Swachhata Swachh Bharat, to create multiple toolkits, for people who are in the government, for trainers, for teachers, for students. And you saw a couple of child cabinet members there in the videos, and then of course for maintenance staff. And I think what is unique about this partnership in many ways is it's not just about the hardware or creating the physical infrastructure in schools, but also the behavior change part, right? And when both of these go together, you really create magic. Last slide, please. And I think, therefore, I'm going to spend a minute on this slide, and learnings, and we have just put it down in 4 simple learnings. I think the first step in any partnership like this is to partner with obviously the right partners, and many times the right partners they might appear to be right in the beginning, but you really need to get into what's the objectives, what are their values, how do they prefer working, right? And therefore, in this, for both Unilever and UNICEF, even though we come at the issue of sanitation from very different angles, I think they were at the common, at a central core level. Many of the objectives and values we shared, whether it is in terms of ethics, whether it is in terms of wanting to create impact. So I think that really helped. It also helps that you have very, very patient partners, because some of these projects are very difficult to implement. And so we also learned a lot of patience through this entire project. I think the second big learning is, partnerships are very hard, but don't do it unless this is a quote from Aristotle, which is, don't do it till the whole or the sum is greater than the sum of its parts, right? And I think that's what we've been able to create in my mind, which is the behavior change ability of Unilever, the ability of UNICEF and the deep understanding of children and the government and schools across India, and then of course working with multiple state governments. I think all 3 different organizations coming together has really helped in landing this partnership. I think expect the unexpected and therefore pivot. I don't need to tell you guys this. I think COVID really challenged us to pivot every single thing, and I think we were able to. I think we were able to manage all the challenges and the changes which COVID brought along. And then finally, the really good thing with the government in India right now is you have people who are very, very open to understanding ideas from the private sector, from the multilateral organizations like UNICEF. The big challenge in India, of course, is in a way our diversity, because you have 30 plus states. Every state has its priorities. Every state is on its own journey on hygiene and sanitation, and therefore you need to work closely with the government. You need to work closely with the community to drive deeper impact, and that's when you see long-lasting change. And we sincerely, this partnership has brought in a lot of change on the ground, and this will continue and will help India become more resilient to any future challenges. Thank you.
Thank you, Prashant. That's really inspiring. And as you put it in the end, working closely with the government is the critical component. So without further ado, again, we're fortunate and honored to have the Director of School Education and Literacy from the Ministry of Education and the Government of India, Dr. Edla, Naveen, Nicholas, if you can please join us and share.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. I'm Dr. Naveen Nicholas, and I work as the director with the Ministry of Education, and I have joined the ministry recently, 7-8 months back. Earlier, I was with the state government of Andhra Pradesh and Telangana. So at the outset, I would like to thank UNICEF and the organizers for inviting me for this meeting. And I would like to speak about the Swachh Vidyalaya Puraskar and the Swachhta action plans that the Government of India has started. So basically, SVP has introduced the benchmarking system for WASH in school infrastructure and practices. Through the 5-star rating system, next slide please. Through the 5-star rating system, it endeavors to help the schools to do self-evaluation and develop a roadmap for improving it further. And it also recognizes it also rewards the schools in that process. So basically, I would just like to mention here about the journey so far. So it all started in the year 2014 when the Honorable Prime Minister has announced on the Independence Day that adequate number of toilets should be constructed in all the government and private schools. So that was the year in which the entire concept has been devised, and it began in the year 2014. And in the year 2016, the Swachh Vidyalaya Puraskar has been initiated, and SVP has also been conducted in the year 2017. And from the year 2018-19, we have introduced a new program called as Swachhta Action Plan into the Samagra Shiksha project. And 2020, we have introduced the SOP guidelines for health and safety protocols for opening of the schools. And after a gap of 2 years, again, SVP has started in the year 2021. So briefly, we will get into the activities that we have taken in each of the previous years. Next slide. So as per the call of the Honorable Prime Minister, during the year 2014 itself, more than 4 lakh toilets have been constructed in more than 2 lakh schools. So most of the PSUs from the government sector and some of the government organizations have also contributed. And within a year, more than 4 lakh toilets have been constructed as part of Swachh Bharat Swachh Vidyalaya mission. And it was also informed to the PSUs who have constructed these toilets to maintain them also for a period of 3 to 5 years. So that was the starting point, because before 2014, the government has observed that there was some difference in the number of toilets in the schools, and because of the initiative of the Honorable Prime Minister in the year 2014, adequate number of toilets were constructed within that year itself. Next slide. And in the subsequent year, the Swachh Vidyalaya Puraskar has been started, because the problem of deficit of toilets has been addressed, because of which it has become necessary to put in a benchmarking system in WASH. Because of that reason, the Swachh Vidyalaya Puraskar initiative has been started in collaboration with UNICEF. And the main objectives are to recognize, inspire, and celebrate excellence in WASH, to honor schools that have undertaken significant steps towards fulfilling the mandate of the Swachh Vidyalaya campaign, and to promote sustainable practices of improved WASH. So 59 assessment questions and the six essential components have been included, and 5-star rating system has been introduced. And it has been open to all the schools, government aided schools, private schools, and everybody was included in this. And schools at different levels, the district level, state level, and national level, were rewarded for showing excellence in WASH in school. Next slide. So these are the SVP indicators. The broad categories were water, toilets, hand washing with soap, operation and maintenance, behavioral change and capacity building, COVID-19 preparedness and response. And basing upon the evaluation, and self-evaluation and also independent assessment. Schools were given rating. Schools with a score of 90 to 100% were given 5-star rating, and 75 to 89% were given 4-star rating, and 51 to 74% were given 3-star, and 35 to 50 were given 2-star, and below 35 were given 1-star. So basically, SVP is more than an award. It is a self-evaluation system which helps the school to plan ahead to improve their wash facilities. Next slide, please. So it is at various levels. This is the process in which the schools participate in the Swachh Vidyalaya Puraskar. So schools register themselves in the SVP portal. It is a dynamic website which is also supported by an app. Schools register, and this year I'm happy to share that more than 9 lakh schools have participated in the SVP program. More than 9 lakh schools out of the total 15 lakh schools in the country, including the government and private sector schools. More than 10 lakh schools are in the government sector, which are run by the government. And more than 9 lakh schools have registered for the SVP this year. And schools register for the SVP and they do a self-evaluation. And at the district level this time, for the schools which are rated 3-star and above, more than 60,000 evaluators have been engaged this time to evaluate it, to do an independent evaluation subsequently. And after that, the best performing schools at the district level have been awarded. There is a district level committee under the chairmanship of the district magistrate and the staff of the various departments at the district level, that is the education department, the rural water supply department, Panchayat Raj and rural development department. There is a committee at the district level which gives the district level awards to the schools after the field level evaluation. And similarly, at the state level also, there is a very senior committee which is headed by the Secretary to Government School Education and other heads of the department of various departments who form the state level committee, and they felicitate the best performing schools at the state level. And at the national level also, UNICEF is helping the ministry to do the third-party evaluation, and the grand national level award ceremony is organized on the Global Hand Washing Day, and the best performing schools are awarded at the national level. As I have told you, I mean, IT is used to the fullest to reach each and every school. Because we have UNICEF has built a robust website, a good mobile app has also been designed, and to monitor the entire process. In fact, we have designated we have designated senior officials at the state level as the state nodal officer for this project. We have also designated senior staff from the ministry as a district nodal officer also. So admin panels are available at the district level for the district nodal officer of the SVP, who is from the education department. There is an admin panel login for the state level state nodal officer, and also for the national level officer, using which most of the activities, almost everything is done online. The assessment part, the selection, ranking, everything is online. The schools can view their assessment, they can download all the details, their ranking, everything is online. Next slide, please. These are a few of the photographs of the district level, state level, and national level felicitation. In fact, from the next year onwards, we want to take it to the block level also, because district is again a big entity. In a country like India, we want to take it to the block level also. Next year, we want to organize these sort of programs at the block level also, so that block or mandal is a small unit in which around 15 to 20 villages constitute a block. So next year, we are planning to take it to the block level also, so that there is more participation from all the schools. Next slide. So as you can see, the response has been tremendous. In the initial year, only around 3.23 lakhs have participated in the Swachh Vidyalaya Puraskar program. But This year, even though some of the schools have been opened a bit late, but still the response has been really good. More than 9 lakhs. In fact, 9,59,000 schools. That is around 63% of the total schools in the country have been evaluated, have registered, and more than 8 lakh schools have been evaluated. And yeah, next slide. And if you can see, the number of schools who have been given 5-star rating is increasing every year. Initially, it was only 2.5, but now it is 6.95. The number of schools who are getting 5-star, 4-star is on the rise, and the number of schools who were getting 3-star, 2-star, and 1-star is on the decline. This shows that schools are actually using the self-evaluation, and they are working towards moving towards 4 and 5-star rating. And Unilever and UNICEF is particularly concentrating on the 1-star and 2-star schools so as to handhold them and get them to 4-star and 5-star rating. Next slide, please. Now, apart from that, what we have done is in the year 2018, Samagra Shiksha is an umbrella scheme. It is a main scheme under which the Government of India gives budget to the state governments. The fund sharing pattern is around 60 to 40. 60% of the funds, 60% of the budget has to be borne by the Government of India, and 40% would be contributed by the respective state government. It is the overall budget in the Samagra Shiksha is close to around 60,000 crores. And part of Samagra Shiksha, what we are doing is we are giving a composite grant, untied grant of it depends upon the number of students in a school. So around 1 lakh rupees is given as an untied grant, as a composite grant to the school for maintenance and for other operational expenditure. And we have mandated it for the schools to spend at least 10% of this money on Swachhta related activities. And as part of Samagra Shiksha, we are also releasing budget to the states for construction of new toilets, for repairs to new toilets. This year around 500 crores has been released to the state government for construction of new toilets and for repairs to the new toilets. And as far as I can see from the UDICE information is basically we collect information from all the schools 100% every year on all the parameters. As per that information, now infrastructure is there in most of the schools. And this year what we have done is we have requested Swachh Bharat Coast Trust. Swachh Bharat Coast Trust is an organization under the Ministry of Finance. So this year we have requested all the states and union territories to to project the requirement of budget for toilet repairs and for providing running water to the school on saturation basis. We have asked all the states to give us the details of, because toilets now are in most of the schools have adequate number of toilets. Now we want to concentrate on keeping them working. We want to repair all the toilets and also providing running water to them. With that intention, this year we have obtained proposals from all the states across the country and all the union territories on saturation basis. And we have prepared a detailed proposal this year. We want to help all the states in repairing all the toilets on saturation basis and to provide running water to all the toilets on saturation basis. And we have completed this exercise this year, and we have sent detailed proposal to the Swachh Bharat Coast Trust. And we are anticipating that we would get adequate budget this year to support all the states and union territories with the repair work and with the work pertaining to providing running water on saturation basis. So this is one new initiative that we have started this year. So yeah, this is about it. And in brief, as I've told you, SVP is a 5-star approach of WASH benchmarking, which strategically supports school performance and WASH parameters apart from recognizing the local efforts. And school level Swachhta action plan based on SVP provides a greater opportunity to engage local stakeholders, planning, converting resources for WASH in schools priorities. And this year we would also like to work on capacity building of the teachers and all the stakeholders who are involved in the implementing the action plan. And that is, there are two, three things that we want to take up in the coming years. One is we want to take it to the block level. Second one is we want to focus on 1-star and 2-star schools and help them with help them not only with funds for creating the infrastructure, but also we want to do capacity building of the teachers who are involved in these schools. And this year we would like to coordinate with UNICEF, and also we want to chip in NCRT this year, because we want to take up training of around 20 lakh teachers, two teachers in every school, 20 lakh teachers capacity building program on WASH initiatives we want to take on saturation basis this year. And these are 2-3 initiatives that we want to concentrate in the year 22-23. Thank you. That's all from my side.
Wonderful. Thank you, Dr. Naveen. Actually, you started to answer my questions that would have been to you for the panel. So it's wonderful to start hearing about that. So I guess I'll start randomly calling in people with regards to questions, but perhaps one of the questions that I have for you is perhaps to let me start with Nicholas. Could you tell us, Nicholas, a little bit about, based on the learnings that you've had so far on this partnership with Unilever and the government, what do you think are the areas of priorities? You heard the director speak a little bit about what their needs are on capacity building of teachers, but what are you thinking with regards to next steps?
All right, thanks. Hi everyone, Nicolas from UNICEF in India. Just to start with, like to echo the words, like we're really grateful. It's a blessing to have motivated and partners such as Unilever, and of course the government of India with a vision and a purpose and being result oriented. And we really appreciate the duration of this partnership. This is critical. We are not in an emergency context. We're in development, and things take time. They change and they're sustainable. It takes time. So it's very important to be with partners that have a medium-term to long-term vision. It's very important. To answer your questions, Michael, on the priorities, I think one would be around capacity development. We heard from the ministry the importance. We're really happy about one of the outcomes, this training toolkit that we have developed with Unilever and the government, because it's meant to last. It will remain relevant for several years. We just need to do some updates through time to address emerging issues, for instance, climate change and environmental sustainability. It would be great also to think about the digital version of the training content moving forward. This we can go to scale and reach more schools. We together have a crazy number, 150,000, but this is 10% of the schools in India. With the digitalization and people shifted to that thanks to, I would say, the COVID-19 pandemic. That's one of the silver lining of the pandemic. And it's also about refresher trainings. There is a turnover among teachers, among parents associations, and of course, school children. And something that has been working very well as well in capacity building, it's all the cross-learning. And here we can really give credit as well to the good performers and the innovators. Each time I go to the field, I can see some new things put in place under the framework with a lot of creativity, and it's very engaging to have a good performing school and teams to engage others. And we need as well to look at the broader perspective. You have the global picture, Michael, and also participants to the World Water Week. But I think India is a front runner, and the investments in school wash in India from the government, from Unilever, from UNICEF is quite exemplary. And so maybe we could also use India in the global dialogue to engage others on interventions and also stimulate cross-learning across countries. That's the two small additional points. the importance of this Swachh Vidyalaya Purashkar as a traction for results in the field. This is 59 WASH indicators, and you heard the numbers. Up to 1 million schools, we have this award/monitoring scheme implemented every year. So this is very much motivating. Having been to the field recently in Chhattisgarh, you go to schools and the school teachers, the children, they really want to climb this ladder to improve. And there's a great traction, and what a wealth of data. If you want to scale up, and you need accurate data, especially if the government is in the driving seat, and that's what this award scheme provides as well. So really important. And then finally, some of the challenges, because you heard from Prasant, there are difficulties. Let's not be complacent. It's quite difficult. And one of the struggles here, it's all the local support for planning and budgeting in the context of India. There are multiple budget funding sources for operation maintenance and for creating new WASH infrastructure. And so there is a lot of hand-holding support required at the school level so that the local authorities can know on which door to knock to find the money and the funds, and also the training to be provided at the local level. So this will enable further scaling up based on what we have been able to achieve to date. Thank you.
Thank you, Nicholas. That's really rich. In fact, you know, you know, the numbers are overwhelming. You know, you're modest when you say 10%, but you know, when you talk about 150,000 schools, it's not children, it's schools. So certainly that's a very impressive number. But even more impressive if all of those that are registered start to actually achieve the same types of results. That's wonderful to hear. Maybe we could also hear from Anila. Same question, you know, based on the learnings that you guys have had, what do you think are, you know, opportunities and priorities on your end with regards to, scaling up even further in India and maybe even beyond?
Sure, Mike, thank you. I think this is very much a global partnership because both UNICEF and Unilever are global organizations. We picked India for various reasons because there was a lot of momentum happening around WASH, and it seemed like, and it's a very important country for Unilever and UNICEF. But I think there are twofold opportunities. One is to go deeper and to deepen the footprint and the impact of such a partnership within India, because no partnership is perfect and you always have to aspire for more, better, etc. So I think staying contemporary and relevant is very important. Policy-wise, we're in a different place in India now than certainly when this partnership was launched. So whatever it takes to keep WASH front and center. We've seen the pandemic has shown us that people adopt new habits when there's a threat, and then they drop the new habits once the threat is gone, or the perception is that the threat is gone. So I think relevance to the current day, people's mindset and policy environment is very important for the survival and longevity of a partnership. And everything, just like brands must do what it takes to kind of stay relevant and to make WASH relevant. So whether that is through a kind of, looking at adjacent areas that are also impacted by hygiene, for example, nutrition and hygiene are closely interlinked. Whether it's climate and the impact of climate on WASH and how are those connected. The objective is not to complicate the program, but the objective is to keep that access of hygiene relevant. And so similarly, there are other opportunities to go deeper, right? One can say that we've come up with these co-created modules. It's been taken on board by various states. How do we actually get it further embedded? How do we make sure that, not just policies are in place or modules are in place, but it's hardwired into a kind of teacher performance monitoring or teacher kind of reviews that happen, monthly reviews, etc. So how do we make sure that this is more of an intrinsic part of the curriculum, the way it would be to teach, reach certain milestones on how you teach math, science, etc. How do we make hygiene at that level? So I think within India, those are some of the kind of opportunities to kind of go deep and to stay relevant. And then globally, of course, I mean, there is sometimes when you, just like there was a lot of knowledge transfer to Africa, for example, during Swachh Bharat Abhiyan, to kind of, introduce kind of what has been working in India, especially around motivating people, the Puraskar, making it exciting, having some healthy competition between schools. So I think there's a lot to kind of now export. The ones that are very India specific, of course, not necessarily. I would argue that the majority are exportable in that sense. So to look at kind of what might be other countries that are at this tipping point where behavior change can make a big impact, and to take a complementary approach, to match the supply side with the demand side. The work on infrastructure, maintenance, operations, maintenance, etc., that UNICEF has anyway done for many years, but also to keep boosting the behavior change, because school children are a moving population. They move up the classes, and I think there's always relevance for programs like this. The job is never quite done.
Thank you, Anila. Perhaps one other question, to couple of more questions. One to Robin Ward, who's joining us from our UNICEF National Committee in the UK. Perhaps, Robin, could you share some insights around, particularly around partnerships, and trying to balance, working both with private sector and public sector? What are some of the things that you think are opportunities that we can still build on in this current partnership?
Hi, Mike, and hi, everybody. Nice to join you. So yeah, I'm from UNICEF UK, the National Committee within UK. So we fit into the picture that we hold the relationship with Unilever in the UK. And I just have to say, I'm completely blown away by the scale of this initiative. It's really, it's very impressive, and we're very pleased to support this. And our role is that we're UK facing, and then we engage with UK business, including Unilever, to partner with them as part of wider public-private partnerships. So we then make that link between them in the UK and then UNICEF India within the country, who of course then work in partnership with the government. So we're seeing like a huge shift more and more with our UK partners from like more conventional funders, implementers, much more to these kind of shared value partnerships, which we really value. And so instead of having kind of conventional partnership agreements, we now have like project agreements, which broadly set out the terms of the collaboration, and then they allow like a lot of fertile space for co-creation. And we've seen a really impressive example here from where Unilever have come in and shared their vast knowledge and experience on markets, consumers, social behavioral change in the sanitation hygiene space. And this is really, you've already heard from the previous speakers that, this is really the toolkits that have been developed are really reaching a huge scale. So the value of this, the private sector aspect is undeniable. So yeah, I mean, in terms of some priorities going forwards, I think I would also echo what both Nicola and Anila said, that there's really an opportunity here we see for South-South learning and sharing, and we'd be very UNICEF UK, we're very keen to explore this with Unilever and other private sector partners, because looking at JMP data, I had a look the other day. There's nowhere quite that has the scale as India, but you do have a lot of other countries which are performing quite poorly. I think Mike shared some of those on the screen earlier. So you have your like Nigeria and Ethiopia, India, Indonesia, Bangladesh, and Tanzania. I'm not picking on them, but those are ones that when you look in the JMP, they have still in the tens of millions, and I think probably
I think we lost Robin, but no, completely agree, Robin. I think that's an area of work, particularly for us. I wanted to ask Dr. Nicholas, maybe perhaps one last question. Particularly, one thing that stood out for me from your presentation is when you shared the 5-star, you had COVID-19 like there as part of the kind of self-reflections of the different schools. I was wondering, given the kind of worsening context of climate change and also the topic of the theme here at Stockholm, you have any thoughts with regards to strengthening the program around climate resilience and environmental sustainability? I'd like to kind of hear your thoughts, and perhaps also Nicholas, when you do your closing remarks, be great to kind of hear your thoughts around that space as well. Over to you, Dr. Naveen.
Yeah. So before going to the climate change thing, I just want to say 2 or 3 things regarding the further steps that we need to take to further strengthen the SPB program in the coming years. One thing is that, as of now, we are awarding only the schools at the national level. I think it would be a great idea if we can award the schools, best performing schools at the state, district, and block level also. So from the ministry, we are trying to put in that we are trying to get some funds to, to award, to give a special incentive to the schools at who are really performing well at the state, district, and block level also next year. So that will be an addition next year. And the second thing that we can concentrate as a team from next year onwards is regarding convergence with the other government departments. Because in our country, there are, multiple ministries. The Ministry of Jal Shakti is there. Their goal is to provide running water supply on saturation basis to all the schools, to each and every household. So, almost 95% of the schools in India now have water connection. But if we can coordinate and converge with other departments, and if we can empower the teachers, at the teachers and headmasters at the ground level, so that they can converge with important ministries like Ministry of Jal Shakti and Ministry of Rural Development. Ministry of Rural Development has vast budget. Right now they want to saturate rainwater harvesting structures. They want to sanction rainwater harvesting structures in all government institutions, including schools, on saturation basis. They want to sanction soak pits from the MGNREJ, Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Scheme. It is a wonderful scheme, and they want to sanction all this on saturation basis. So what I feel is we have to train we have to take up capacity building of the teachers and headmasters at the grassroots level, so that they can in fact take up all these activities, because funding is already available. The Jal Shakti Ministry and MGNRES Rural Development, if we can coordinate, because coordination and capacity building is the key. If we can do that, we can take up rainwater harvesting structures in all the schools on saturation basis, because budget is not an issue for that. So grey water management, soak pits we can do. Ground leveling is also an activity. So these are some of the activities that we should concentrate, and we should help the education, the teachers and the HMs who are working at the grassroots level, so that they converge with these departments and get all these things done. And another important thing that we can focus is, now the government has mandated all the schools to engage special educators for the children of special needs. You must be aware that since 2010, Right to Education Act is in place.
I think we lost Dr. Naveen. No, but I completely agree with Dr. Naveen that the capacity building, the coordination with other sectors are really kind of critical areas. Hopefully Nicholas will also get to work with them next year here at headquarters. We're also working on climate guidance on integrating Washington schools. So, so over to you, Nicholas, for some closing remarks and perhaps some additional insights.
All right, I'll be brief. It seems that we have only a few minutes left. So I'll conclude on this issue of climate change. We had the COVID-19 pandemic, and unfortunately, India is the 7th most vulnerable country in the world to climate change. And so all this COVID-19 pandemic and the challenges we face in India is just a rehearsal for the bigger crisis, not ahead, there already. But the good thing, and I think the director, Naveen, nailed it, it's about convergence. And very interestingly, last week only, we had a meeting with external partners, UN agencies and youth organizations on how to converge on the issue of climate change. And school wash, school intervention came across as one of the best way to be integrated on climate adaptation issues. So on two simple things, in addition to what we heard from the director Naveen, the investment on adaptation and the infrastructure. One is around of course, the issue of awareness raising on climate issues and climate adaptation, saving water for a recharge of the aquifer, and also the issues of waste management and preventing pollution of the environment. And so this can be included in the teaching curriculum for children, but it's also using teachers who are very respected people in India and children for behavior change to sensitize the wider community on climate issues. And the second one, an idea that came across that is very interesting, it's to use schools as a way to monitor climate change. So we can put weather thermometers in school, or simple climate monitoring devices, such as rain gauges, or also to capture wind. We have 1.5 million schools in India, and we could have, have this wealth of data with very simple device to complement the other data from the government, and to put in place early warning systems against climate shocks, and also to anticipate and to inform programming and risk-informed programming across all the programs, WASH, health, nutrition. And it's also a way to keep teachers and children engaged, because the data will come from them. So that are some of the ideas that we could pursue together. And then of course we need to continue our work on and we heard money is not a problem in India. I don't think this is replicable elsewhere. It's quite specific because of the drive for WASH in India, but we could use that to really strengthen resilience to climate change in schools, adapting the infrastructure to flood and to water scarce area, and again, and mobilizing children, because we have good evidence on how they can contribute to engage the community and what we call in India a Jan Andolan, a people movement on the issue of climate change. Over. Thank you.
Thank you, Nicholas, and thank you everybody for joining the session. Apologies for running a couple of minutes over time, but I think that's generally pretty good for these types of events. Again, thanks everyone for joining, and hopefully have the great rest of the week. Thank you to the speakers. It was a wonderful session. Thank you very much.